Hello YouTube. I am here today to enjoy your company and to add to my Get Real series. Here is where I do not censor my expressed thoughts. This is also a place where you are yoked with the responsibility of your emotional body and mental state. Breathe and remember, you are free to exit stage left at any time. Today, the words I bring to you will not be scripted. Too many times, people have indulged in morphing things into what they are not. The reasons are many. A popular one is to save face. I said it once, and I will say it again. I do not care about Paula Deen's use of the word nigger, no matter if it was in the past or present. First, for clarification purposes. This was not the sole issue which was presented when considering her alleged pratfalls or reported departure of what is ethically acceptable. Indeed, it was the primary one which was capitalized on by all sides who had a vested interest. Like George Zimmerman, she has a unique fan base. Within that fan base are subsets. These folks are not acting merely from a position of irritation. One where, in Paula's case, she is believed to be wronged by the cowering of corporate executives who surrendered to political correctness. Or, in the case of Zimmerman, a man who is often claimed to be hung out to dry, to keep the blacks and liberal whites silent. No, the lowest common denominator appears to be, for this particular subset, that theoretically they are on trial when they see these two, because they, meaning Paula and George, did something they, meaning certain fans or supporters, want to do. They are merely attempting to avoid the wild, hilly terrain of scrutiny. This is the entire lot of those mentioned. The other subset, within the fan base, wants to make a profit. This is clearly demonstrated with certain gun enthusiasts and Second Amendment activists, where they have selectively distilled the case due to their own personal interest, one which orbits the stand your ground law, and other gun control threats to the exclusion of loss of human life, the importance of due process, and the actuality for justice. Yeah, let's veer right. Don't worry, I will connect the dots. The media is working its mojo. However, what appears to be most of the conservative bunch wants to make everything into protective groups versus them. This is especially true if they narrow their scope to race. I am tired of certain butthurt individuals claiming it is a matter of them being seen as bad. Conversely, groups like blacks, physically and or mentally challenged people, Mexicans, Hispanics, or Latinos, homosexuals, and illegal immigrants must be shown deference, linguistically, physically, or both, because they are the special people, the PC crowd. Now, I am not stating this deference never occurs. It certainly does in some instances. I am vehemently refuting this is the norm or has to be the norm. How about treating each other with genuine courteous regard? How about seeing the merit in not wasting energy by entertaining asinine creations that stem from fear, anger, hunger for power, or failed cognition, to name a few? People that see from a higher perspective will marvel at the relentless back and forth. My recommendation, do not live a lie by denying reality. People with their false hurts and identity politics need to be illuminated. They add to the distractions. They weaken discourse needed regarding true, reprehensible behavior. Look, traditional institutions will always have flack directed towards it. The problem many times seems to be the makeup of people within the tradition. Again, the problem many times seems to be the makeup of people within the tradition. Traditional Western culture is not all bad. There are some good attributes. However, like many cultures, it has its share of mentally ill, wondrously indolent, and bigots of the highest order. One of the issues with many of these political caste members is their need to utilize Taliban methods of imposition. I would be foolish to deny there does not appear to have been, in some cases, a capturing of the citadels, if there really was any, of traditional Western culture. We can see how Hollywood productions, general indifference, and certain political offerings have undermined common sense from within, for example. Ultimately, it is up to the individual to invest in core values of society. This is assuming society has been properly assessed and is not itself upside down and inside out. Yet, for over 20 years, I have been hearing America is suffering because members of the majority are excusing any misdeeds by self-designated victim groups or legally labeled protective groups. Yet, I will not deny there are some people that claim they can't be held responsible for what they do. These folks add fuel to the raging fire, which already exists. This is done while others on the far extreme want to play make-believe and pretend all is as they see it. Both groups have individuals and lobbyists that seek to undermine law and order, culture, and progress by sneaky practices along with the almighty playground proven method of pointing fingers at the other side. But rarely do either have members which contribute to positive change. The fact is, even if we took the path of minimizing and made the world into an us versus them model, oh, damn, that's right. In many cases, the world is. Anyway, a model where we have the ever-used template of the powerful versus the oppressed, well, we cannot be suckered into seeing things only one way, unless indeed it is that way. Restriction of this sort greatly reduces the scope of actuality. Some aspects of reality demand that we use the lens of the individual and other times the lens of the group. When we inappropriately use the wrong lens, we all suffer. We are foolish to ignore that there are permitted attitudes which thrive. Indeed, there are permitted attitudes. Combating this should not be at the cost of our integrity, the irrational reduction of reality, or silencing dissent. Speaking of silencing dissent, there will always be members of various groups who will claim, and people who will actually engage in activity where they punish others for the frustrations they feel over their own failures in life, insecurities, and personal demons. Many give lip service to the welcoming of a difference in opinion, belief, impression, sentiment, judgment, or notion, which may encourage them or force them, if their integrity is intact, to seriously consider an alternate path. Sort of like the GOP, who barks and praises the merits of physical conservatism and then votes to expand massive police actions like the war in Iraq or the war on drugs. Ultimately, by silencing those who see through the muck, they are achieving the goal of distracting others from realizing they will compromise any belief in small government when it becomes inconvenient. We can witness the same mindset from this example. Since we have mentioned George Zimmerman, let's take this example. A black person who wishes to silence another when drawing parallels in conversation in regards to our social fabric, okay? We can talk about the Martin case, and we should, but some in the so-called black community turn a blind eye to violence from blacks against whites. They silence the voice of reason that clearly protests, you cannot have it both ways. And then they have the nerve to react with a special type of moral outrage when addressing isolated events of whites on black violence. And are not addressing the numerical representation. I am just addressing isolated events, so do not get your panties in a bunch. This type of reasoning is part of the problem that is interwoven into the fabric of humanity, not just a subset of blacks. Part is the need for ideological conformity, comprehending the difference between what you want to believe to be true and what is fact, and discernment. Do not be suckered into believing there are not people on all sides that produce a rationale divorced from reality and human nature itself. Many times, when peeling back the layers of deception, cognitive distortions, and fallacy, we see ultimately the acquisition of power at the core. Thank you for listening.